unfortunately, the ride ended with me having to lock up the bike, Uber home, and get my truck to go pick it up. And it turns out the culprit is... Hey, welcome to Joyride Labs. Just here to give you some quick context, my name is Corey, this is Joyride Labs. I'm working on the Stealth Bomber Enduro e-bike build. In the last episode, we left off with a little bit of a catastrophic failure with the drivetrain and battery box. So in this episode, we're working to resolve that quite quickly, and unfortunately also jumping into some more troubles. I'm not going to tell you too much more. You're going to just kind of have to hang in there to see what the next failure is, and I'll see you around. Enjoy the show. Cheers. Okay, that test ride went pretty well for the most part. At the end, however, I did hear a snap, and that's usually the sound I hear when the chain breaks, but that wasn't the case this time. Instead, it was the noise of the bolts that hold these sprockets together snapping. So, I mean, you can kind of see this snapped right there. All 5 of them, which is kind of funny. And then what happened is this was not obviously on properly after that, and I spun the motor again to see what was going on, and this one fly and made contact with the battery box, which was already in rough condition, and resulted in critical destruction, mass failure. So that's all right. This battery box I was going to rebuild anyways, put a good end to that. And this is not so big an issue, as I have a few ideas in how to fix it. One, use bigger bolts. I think I can fit bigger bolts through. What the limiting factor will be is those holes. I can widen a little bit more before getting to the end of the flange. And I think also having these, this isn't left, but I was using these plastic spacers that are made of PETG, and they have a little bit of squish, so when this torques, it allows, I think, maybe just a little bit of movement, which kind of creates this shear strength to pull against the bolt instead of holding them rock hard against the base. That's my theory. So I think what I'm going to do is get some more bolts. I'm going to go to Home Depot now and do that, and use a nut on both sides instead of, or washers instead of these 3D printed spacers, and attach that on and get back to it. Other than that, I have the new battery box, which we'll get to here, printed. Gonna install that, and really good to continue going, which is great. Back to the battery box. Last one exploded. It was a little big, didn't quite fit. This is the new design. The sleeves into here, 2 prints. No longer requires the fasteners. I've put a French cleat along the side, both ends. cap in like this, theoretically. Straight, cap in like this, cap in like that, boom. And these guys are what are going to clamp it to the bike. They slide in, down across the back. Bike frame fits here, and I have captured nuts on the inside and bolts that go through that end up pushing through here against the frame. That holds the whole thing tight, and I think this is going to do for now. There's some tolerance things I left a little extra big and tolerance wise because I didn't want to reprint it. I just wanted something that would work for now, figure out what we need to do in the future. Theoretically, next stage is just get this. I have to tap the sleeves. I think I'm just going to tap the plastic. It'll be enough. There's so many fasteners in here that it just needs to stop it from going back to pretty much pins. So I'm going to tap the plastic, use M4 bolts to hold it in, slide the battery in there, and we should be good to get this back on the bike. So that's the plan. I'm going to get to it. I'll let you watch. So I'm going to work on this, but this should protect the wires for now. I switch these out for button head bolts later now that I know the M5 is a good size to work. And yeah, I think I need to increase the width a little bit, but this is pretty good. Yeah, there's lots to learn here. I don't think I needed these. I think I needed these. I could extend the width a little bit, but it's snug. It's a good package. I'm excited about this. This should work well. Okay, so controller is back off the bike. On the last test ride, I noticed these bolts had rattled loose, so I've taken it back out. I played around with the idea of getting this back in here and decided that's definitely a no. I think I'm going to relocate that because this is enough for in here. I don't need to cram more in there. Yes. So I also wanted to work on the throttle. I bought this thumb throttle and I want to use this for my regen. I have a better twist throttle coming. I absolutely hate this one, but it works. So I want to work on this as the regen throttle. I did the test ride with it in place. I liked where it is. My thought is I can't activate my twist throttle and the regen at the same time, which is good. I have to be conscientious with what I want to do. And only thing with that connector is it came with one of these high go connectors and it didn't seem to match the cable wiring on the internet that it should be. So I just wanted to take a second to praise out this little device I bought for so cheap. I think I showed you guys me using this before. If not, I've already hooked it up to the motor to confirm my phases work good and that there's no shorts places and everything's working out all right. You just kind of connect it as need be, and I can use this for the throttle as well to test it. So I turn it on. I had no idea which colors corresponded to what, but with that I was able to troubleshoot. So red is purple, ground is gray, and data is, it's not really focused, is black. So who would have guessed that? But if I activate the throttle here, you can see it activates there. So that's the correct wiring. And without this, I would be screwed right now. I'd be troubleshooting. I may have broken something up, and it's just such a cheap tool. So you can get these on Amazon. Maybe I'll put a link in the description, but it's been super handy so far for how cheap it is. It's great. All right, next on the docket, I printed this covering. I guess that's end up something like this, one on each side. And I'm gonna bolt that on to these existing holes. I printed these the right size to receive. Rampa threaded inserts. These are from my woodworking past. These are really great inserts, double helical. Anyways, I'll put these in, thread that in. It'll give me a 1/4-inch thread on both sides. Then I'll pop this on. I'm also going to go around and make sure all these screws are fine. There's been no damage from heat or anything to these terminal blocks that I put in these cables. That's not bad for a custom cable mount, huh? Okay, let's toot my own horn. Okay, so back from a test ride, and it went very well for the most part. I went for about 3 hours through some trails, on roads, all of the above, just making sure the motor was tuned well, making sure temps all maintained properly, and that it didn't have any issues with faulting. Some of the small faulting issues I had, I was able to resolve, so all that was good, just kind of getting the motor tuned in. Unfortunately, the ride ended with me having to lock up the bike, Uber home, and get my truck to go pick it up. And it turns out the culprit is the motor again. So I have a short between my phase wires somewhere. It looks internally in the motor. I've gone through the logs and examined the motor, and at no point did it overheat. While it happened, I wasn't really even driving hard or fast. There's nothing out of spec, we should say. So I'm a little curious what it was. Maybe it has to do with that rubbing noise earlier, this issue that's kind of plagued me. So what I'm gonna do now is I've already emailed the manufacturer, hoping maybe they have some input into what could have caused it. 2, I suggested, well, we'll just wait and see what they have to say, because this build really doesn't have any space. I've said that a bunch of times, and to have to change all the configuration of everything I've done to accommodate a different motor. Because from preliminary search, I haven't found anything that will at least take up the empty space this motor had. So we'll see what I get back from them. In the meantime, I'm gonna dive into the motor. Hopefully I can find, I don't know, a chafed wire inside. That would be nice, and I can just fix that. Other than that, we'll have to see what this brings forward. So I'm gonna take the motor apart. We'll do some examinations, see what's in there, and hopefully find a solution so I can get back on the bike soon. All right, I'm not quite sure where we left off, but for recap, things have been going great. I've modeled the bike around this motor. The enclosure, finally got it capped off. Mostly everything except for a few wires have been tidied up and ready for the bike to go. Went on a really good couple of test rides, and then went on a longer, like 2-3 hour test ride. And that went really well until the end, when something broke. And essentially what happened is I kept triggering a fault, just barely moving the throttle. I was putzing around at like 500 watts when it happened, which is kind of shocking for me. It was not like I was driving that hard. Temperatures were all good. Double checked the log. Everything was fine at the time and throughout the entire ride. Nothing crazy. That triggered contacting the 7 Electronics owner, who I've been working with very closely. I only have great things to say. Been super helpful, helping me out through this journey, buying the product, supporting me, all that. And he thinks it's an issue with the motor. So I've examined the motor. I've gone through the motor. I took it apart. I think I showed you that. I thought some of the phases were shorted, but that's actually, I looked into more of that. They are obviously wired together. They should short out when you detect the phases. They shouldn't short between the phases and the motor body, which I've also checked now, and there's no continuity, there's no shorting there. And I've also hooked the multimeter up in a way that I could check if there's any kind of short as the motor spins. So I even have the multimeter hooked up and spin it to see if there's anything. There's nothing wrong with the motor as far as I can tell. So I just don't understand really that logic. They're pretty simple. It's like coils. Anyways, I don't know what's going on. I do know I've blown up a bunch of vest controllers now, and it all points to the motor from the vest side, but I don't see any issue with the motor, and I want to get back riding before I have the opportunity to just waste more money on another vest if it's going to blow up. All that being said, what I've done is dive deep into a rabbit hole, deciding, should I get another motor? Should I get another controller? What controller should I get? What motor should I get? There's been more motor releases since I first spec'd this, and there's some cool, exciting stuff from Soshin and QS, and it's a deep rabbit hole, but all of that involves spending a lot of money and would involve reworking this bike that I'm so close to kind of just wrapping up, and I don't want to do that. That being said, my solution now was to go on Facebook Marketplace and grab a new controller from a different style. Like, this is non-vest. This is a Far Driver. They're quite common. They're like affordable. It's high power. It's known. They'd be robust and like obviously widely used all over, and just simpler. Like, there's less stuff I could mess up programmatically. And I think that's good. So I'm going to try and get this on the bike. It's crazy the size. Like, and this is more powerful theoretically, but anyways, the plan is get this on the bike, test the bike with this. Hopefully there's no issues with this Far Driver controller. I can ride as much as I want. Pointing back at the vest controllers or the implementations that I had, or their implementation with this motor. Some issue there, but not the motor alone, because this should work fine with it, theoretically. At least that's what I'm hoping to prove. And get back riding. So I've been rambling on for a lot now, but moral of the story is I got this new controller. It was quite affordable, like $200, like not cheap, but not $1,000 like some of these vests. And I'm gonna mount it to the bike, get it running, go for a ride, and hopefully prove that the motor is not the issue, and have a running bike that I can use, because it's like summertime now and I want to be riding. I hate driving the car in the city, my truck in the city in the summer. It's going to be even more chaotic coming up. So yes, that's the plan. I don't think you need to see me how I get it in. We've done a lot of videos about building so far. I'm just going to get it done. I want to get this done, and I'll show you what I did and how I got it done once it's on there, and then we'll go for a ride. That's the plan. All right, we're back. So another episode down the hatch. Made a lot of progress in many ways, and once again, a couple steps backwards in other ways, but we have a new direction and path. We're gonna move ahead with that far driver, and you're gonna see in the next episode that get installed, used, and a little bit of a secret. That's the driver still in the bike, and there's been no issues so far. So stay tuned to see the rest of the build. The bike's getting really close to buttoning up some of the final details, and really happy with how it's going. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comments below, and I hope to see you again. Cheers.